Liberals in New Brunswick can be forgiven if they're feeling dazed and confused these days. They've been rejected by voters not once, but twice. The recent federal election was a second body blow for a party already stunned by its poor provincial showing. Now, an internal review is warning the party its core values are muddied and must be clarified if there is any hope of regaining voter support. Victor Boudreau is the interim leader of the New Brunswick Liberal Party. He joins me from our studio in Fredericton. Mr. Boudreau, given the scale of the Liberal defeats, both federally and provincially, what do you think voters are telling your party?
Well, they've obviously sent us a message, and we need to hear that message loud and clear. And I think the timing of our renewal commission and the work that it's been done, is bang on. Just today, our renewal commission released its discussion paper, which was a summary of the first round of discussions that were held with Liberals all over New Brunswick. And now there's going to be soon a scheduled release, which is going to have a second round of consultations, which will be open not only to Liberals but to New Brunswickers in general, or Liberal sympathizers who want to come and partake in those discussions. And, we need to rebuild the party and refocus and regain the confidence of New Brunswickers and of Canadians.
But the success of that renewal, that refocusing, the rebuilding you speak of, has to be predicated on clearly understanding the message from voters. So, if you had to explain it in brief, what would you say voters are telling the Liberal Party, both federally and provincially?
Well, I think there were two different issues there.
Yeah.
I think the last provincial election, we all know was focused, primarily around the energy file, let's say. And while as the last federal election, obviously the NDP managed to create some excitement in the country. I don't think the federal Liberal Party ran a bad campaign. I think Michael Ignatieff was a good leader. Somehow the NDP just seemed to connect with voters.
But clearly that's because voters didn't see any other options. So while you say the federal Liberals didn't run a bad campaign, arguably they ran the worst campaign in the federal party's history.
And that's why we need to rebuild and refocus. But if you look, Harry, some other parties, the Conservative Party ran very bad campaigns in the past as well, in New Brunswick in 1987.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
got
nationally in
devastated
93, and have rebuilt and are now in government. So it can be done, and I'm confident that the Liberal brand is still a viable option in New Brunswick and in Canada.
Here's what I'm getting at. I just want to understand from you what you are hearing from voters. What is it that doesn't serve in the Liberal Party when voters decide to mark their ballots? Your internal document talked about muddied core values. Is that at the heart of this?
Well, we need to take a look at what it means to be a Liberal in the 21st century in New Brunswick. We've said that all along. And, I think that for most Liberals in the province, it's standing up, for the little guy, for the little girl. It's looking after social programs in New Brunswick, and maybe over the past couple of decades, the Liberal government has focused more attention, on building that business climate in the province and being friendly to business, which all governments need to do, because we need to create jobs and create wealth to be able to pay for the social programs. But, it's a question of just finding our true place on the political spectrum. Well, we now have a right-wing government in power in Ottawa. We've got a provincial Conservative government that has mirrored a lot of the decisions that this federal government has taken, and we need to make sure that the Liberal Party is able to fill that void in New Brunswick for the people who believe in the values that the Liberal Party stands for.
But we all watched both campaigns, federally and provincially, and really, if you step back, it appears as though the Conservatives and the NDP have, in a sense, split the political centre, the traditional ground for Liberal policies. So what's left for Liberals to claim as their own when the NDP and the Conservatives have managed to do that?
Well, the Liberal Party has been traditionally the party in the center. I certainly wouldn't refer to the Stephen Harper Conservatives as being a central party.
Didn't say that. What I said was they've stolen your territory and your policies and left nothing for you. They've eaten your lunch between the NDP and the Conservatives. Well, so how do you find room in that center?
There was a wave that was created by the NDP, that a lot of Canadians, decided to go with, and the voters are never wrong at the end of the day. But I think over the next 4 years, we're going to see whether or not that wave can be sustained. You've got
it started
some NDP
here in New Brunswick, didn't it? That wave.
Pardon?
That NDP wave started here in New Brunswick. When you look at the returns.
Well, not the NDP wave. I mean, the NDP wave, if you look at the last provincial election, the NDP vote was essentially stable with what it's been for many elections. But on the federal election, the last federal election, which was Monday, clearly the NDP wave was there. But you've got NDP MPs that never even set foot in their ridings and got elected. We're going to need to see now if over the next 4 years they're going to be able to truly establish themselves in those ridings, or will those ridings be up for grabs come the next federal election?
We've got to go. We're out of time, but before we do, I want to ask you this just very quickly, Mr. Boudreau. Where do you go now for new ideas, new Liberal ideas that will invigorate voters?
Well, we're going to continue on with our renewal process. As I mentioned, the discussion paper was made public today. We've got a meeting of our provincial executive that's scheduled for May 14th. The Renewal Commission will continue with a second round of consultation. Once the renewal process within the party is complete, there will be a provincial leadership campaign. There will be a federal leadership campaign. So there's still lots of activities and lots of opportunities for Liberals to be able to define themselves and to be able to reconnect and regain the confidence of the electorate.
All right, Mr. Boudreau, always good to talk to you. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Harry.
Victor Boudreau is the interim leader of the New Brunswick Liberal Party.